There was a time in my life not too long ago when I was pre-diabetic, extremely unhealthy, and feeling low energy all the time. I have to say, it's much more exciting knowing how to use food to live vibrantly, happy, and healthy every day. My name is Adam Hart, and I want to welcome you to the power of food.
Hey everybody, the Power Food Cooking Show coming at you from the sea to sky. Really excited to share some time with you today. I'm doing a kind of an impromptu recipe here, shooting a couple segments for the cooking show, and I thought, whoa, hey, wait a minute, look at all my ingredients I got. What can I kind of whip up with some of these plant-based foods that I love to use and teach and feed my kids? And so I figured, well, I got one right in front of me that's going to work really, really great. And it's one that I actually do for my kids. It's not in the Power Food book. So pay special close attention because you're going to want to write down these ingredients. And again, at the end of the show or in the show notes, we'll do our best to give you the recipe because it's not in the book. But it's really a great energy boosting applesauce. And like I mentioned, I do it for my kids. They love it. And I'm happy to share it with you today. So obviously we got to start off with some apples. And as we all know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So what's so great about apples? I mean, as an immune boosting food, critical that we get the right sources of apples. And if you go to the grocery store, you notice now it's going to cost you, $10, $12 for a bag of apples, especially if it's organic. It's pretty pricey. So if you can do local, when apples are in season, do as much as you can, collect as much as you can, freeze as much as you can. I tend to, when they're all in season, I get them, I chop them all up, I freeze them, and becomes the base of a lot of my smoothies and the applesauces and other things that I do at home. Now, the idea behind the organic, really critical. On average in Canada, we use about 400 times more pesticides than any other European country in particular. And that has a lot of impact on our body. And I call that the combination effect. You don't see pesticides on your apple, but yet when we consume them, they are being ingested and they're fat soluble for the most part. So they're storing inside our fat cells for long periods of time, even when you're young, all the way to when you're old, and they contribute to some of your symptoms. So if you are having mid-afternoon crashes, the energy, the fatigue, poor quality sleep, just know that some of that can be coming from the amount of toxins and chemical toxins from pesticides that you consume. So just be aware of that. And I also like to avoid the wax that gets put on the apples, which does happen on organic as well sometimes. But if you can do local, that's the way to go, and avoid any of the extras that come in there. But just a great source of vitamin C. Just a really great nutritional powerhouse. I'm just chopping up my apples. I got 4 apples in total. These are, I think these are the Fuji apples, which I love Fuji apples. Of all the apples that we have. Give these a quick chop. Now, nothing fancy, because once you put them inside the food processor, especially a food processor like this guy, this is the Breville Sous Chef, got a lot of power behind it, and that's what you're looking for, like I've mentioned in a few of the other episodes. If you're going to have a food processor, you might as well go with one that's got a good motor. For sure, there's a heavy price point to start, but you're not having to replace them very often. Like I used to have to replace all my older ones that didn't have a good motor on them. So just throwing all these apples in food processor, which once you turn it on, it's just going to create pretty much an apple sauce. Now it's all a matter of, well, what do I add in there? And for those of us who have parents, this is a really critical point in the show. And the reason is because you can now start to hide different nutritional food within there so that your kids eat it. Because what they're after is the sweetness, and especially the apples, as far as my kids go. So it's like, okay, well, what else do my kids need that they might not be normally getting? So one, I'm going to add in some sweetness. So I'm adding in an unpasteurized honey. This is a local honey from a local bee farmer, which is so great. So many great nutrients inside all of bee products, in my opinion, bee pollen and royal jelly. And, obviously having the honey itself from a local source. And then I'm going to top it off with another of the hidden ingredients is the hemp seeds. And those of you who know my work, you know how I feel about hemp seeds. So I didn't put in a ton of hemp seeds, but what I would do is on top of what I serve my kids is I'm going to add in a little bit extra hemp seeds because I want them to know that I'm adding the hemp seeds in there. So I'm hiding some, and then I'm going to add more on top at the end because I think it's important that they know why I'm giving that to them because it's such a great complete protein source and good essential fatty acids. So also adding in just a little bit of lemon juice, using my hand to do that just to keep all the seeds out. I think lemon is just a nice way to give the apples a bit more pop. Sometimes apples can be a little bit bland. And of course we have our sea salt, just a little bit of that to give it a little extra pop. Now the one ingredient I'm not adding in is this guy here, and I'm going to mention that in a minute. But let's just turn this on, see how our applesauce turns out. Now what you can do is you can just take a spatula and scrape down the sides, keep it going. If you want it a little bit more liquidy, then just add in a little bit more lemon juice. You can even throw in a little bit of water if you want to do that. But I'm okay with the way it is for our purpose here. You know, when you go and you buy applesauce, it's not the cheapest to buy for whatever reason. Applesauce tends to be pretty expensive, but here I'm going to remove that from the bowl here so you can see how this turns out. All right. So if you want to get rid of the skin on the apple, there's no problem with that as well. You can just shred the skin off and then just do pure applesauce. You'll notice that it will blend up even nicer if you have the skin removed. But you can see it's not super liquidy, and I think a lot of kids, they're used to the texture of what applesauce is. So what you want to do is add in a little bit more liquid and just leave this on a little bit longer. So it might take up to 2-3 minutes just to let it keep pureeing and pulsing and pulsing. We don't have time for that, but just know you got a good food processor. Just give it some time, keep scraping on the sides, it'll keep that going. Now what I do sometimes also is I'll add in this guy here, and that's quinoa. Quinoa just being a complete protein source, good iron source, is I want to make sure my kids get some of that as well. So it's got such a neutral flavor to it that you can throw in, you know, just enough that it's not going to take over for the applesauce. I'll put that back in there just to even it all out. And I'm going to squeeze a little more of the lemon in there. Awesome. There we go. And we'll turn that back on, and we're going to blend in some quinoa. So now all of a sudden you've got yourself a quinoa applesauce where the kids won't even know there's quinoa in there. And it even looks like the apples as well. So it's just a great ingredient to try hiding. And hey, if you get away with it, it's just a bonus for your family and yourself, and you know you're getting extra protein, extra iron into your kids' diet. There we go. I know at our house, my wife Susie, she loves to add this to the granola that we make, which is inside the Power of Food book. But just a great way to get applesauce in your diet. Lots of good nutritional value in all the ingredients that we've added in, and kids love it. So there you go, the Power of Food cooking show. Hope you enjoyed that one. We'll see you again really soon. I'm gonna dip into the applesauce.